Okay, hi, how are you? Today I am going to talk about my experience being a young mum. I don't mean I'm a young mum now because I'm not that young. However, when I had Christopher, I was only 20 years old. I was 20 years old. That terrifies me. Christopher will be 20 years old in 3 years' time, and the thought of him having a child is ridiculous to me. Mainly because obviously I see him as a child myself, and I know he's not a child, he's turning into a young man. He is a young man, he's 16, he's 17 in a few months, and he's well on his way to being a ginormous man giant. And he is responsible, and he's fantastic, he's great, I say responsible, he's fairly responsible. But to imagine him having a child in 3 years' time is just, it's unthinkable. I look at 20-year-olds these days and I just think, you're so young. How did I have a child at that age? How was I not completely terrified? I don't even remember being scared about any of it. I remember being scared about being pregnant in the beginning, but I don't remember ever freaking out when I was pregnant, thinking, oh my God, there's a baby coming, I don't know what to do. That thought never occurred to me. If I was pregnant now, I would be freaking out, probably because I know what I'd be letting myself in for. I presume previously I wasn't that scared because I had no idea what to expect. I'd never really been around babies. I mean, I knew, sort of what to do with a baby, but it was all kind of meh, we'll see what happens. And contrary to popular belief, Christopher was planned. He wasn't an accident. And yes, at 20 years old, I planned a baby, which again seems insane. Why would I do that? I don't know. Seemed like a good idea at the time. No, I don't know. It was a discussion that I had with, obviously, Christopher's dad. And we were like, yeah, okay, why not? We can do this. So we did. And had Christopher. And it wasn't without ridicule from family, friends. And I don't mean that family and friends were mean about it. They didn't, it wasn't as though I had family members and friends telling me that I shouldn't do this and I couldn't do this and you're too young and this, that and the other. There was probably a lot of that going on behind my back, and I don't mean that in a horrible way, but I can understand. I'd be exactly the same if I found out that Christopher was going to be a dad at 20. I would support him all the way, but I would at the same time be thinking, you are too young to be doing this. And I would also think, you're ruining your life, which is a horrible thing to think because it doesn't ruin your life. It didn't ruin my life. If anything, it made it even more amazing. But those are the things that you go to, and it's easy for me now at 36 to say a 20-year-old shouldn't have a child, but only because I know all the things that I could have done in that time, but haven't, because I had a baby. I don't regret anything because I'm now able to do those things. Whereas, I mean, it works both ways, doesn't it? Say for instance you wait until you're in your late 20s, early 30s to have a child. You've probably done all the things, or a lot of the things that you wanted to do in those teen and 20s years. You've got a lot, you've probably gone travelling, or you've built your career, or things along those lines. I'm still young enough to do those things. It's just done it the other way around, obviously. I mean, like I say, Christopher's 17 in November. He's completely independent and has been for a few years now, and I have been able to put things in place for me to do other life plans that I haven't been able to do when I was in my 20s. So it shouldn't really matter which way around you do it. I mean, I suppose there could be the argument that when you're younger, you can do more things and you've got more energy and to do the things that you'd do as a childless person. But I see it as I had more energy to spend time with Christopher. Now at this age, I am knackered all the time. I don't know if I would feel this knackered if I hadn't already had Christopher, because having a child is tiring, obviously. And so maybe I would have the energy to start a family now if I hadn't have had Christopher at 20. I will never know. I don't know. But I do know that I had that energy and that time spent with him, and it was wonderful in that time span that I had, and I would never change a thing about it. So I don't have the energy that I could have had to do things now, if that makes sense. But I'm still able to do a lot of things now that Christopher's pretty much going to be off on his own in the next couple of years. And then I'm like, woohoo, I can do whatever I want. I'll probably just stay at home and talk to the cat. We know that that's not going to happen. But there will be a lot of people now who are my age and are just starting families, maybe a couple of years younger, maybe a couple of years older, I don't know, it's, you know, whatever works for you. But by the time their children are flying the nest, or whatever you want to refer to it as, they will be in their 50s, knocking on for their 60s. And that, to me, that matters a lot. It wasn't something I considered when I was 20 and having Christopher. Never even occurred to me. Wasn't something I was thinking of. Retirement age was millennia away. But now I think about it, it's great, it's perfect. I can pretty much do whatever I want, and me and Christopher have a great relationship where we do things together. I'm not entirely sure how much the age makes a difference, factors into that. I don't know. I suppose you can have a great relationship with your parents no matter the age difference. I have a great relationship with my mum, and she's, how old is she? She's like 30 years older than me. How old am I? I'm 36, she's 68, so near enough. And yet there's only 20 years difference between me and Christopher. I have a great relationship with my mum, I have a great relationship with my dad, and with Christopher, and so do they. So I think that depends more on the types of people you are and not the age difference as such. So back to the ridicule from friends and family. As I say, it wasn't a hurtful thing, it was just a we're worried for you kind of thing, potentially. Most of my friends were supportive, to be honest. A couple of my friends already had kids, so they had no room to talk. And then I did have the odd one that was kind of, you know, you're stupid, ruined your life, blah blah blah. In fact, I had quite a few of those, but fuck you. And yeah, you know, from what I've seen of their lives on Facebook, they're pretty shit, and mine's great. So there we go. I did have one person in particular who came and like sat me down and wanted to talk to me about this decision that I'd made to have a child. And I was pregnant at this point when they decided to sit down and talk to me and tell me, you have to realise that you have not ruined your life and that you still can go on to do other things. And I was like, yeah, no, what a weird thing to say. Why would it ruin your life just because you've had a kid? It's not like I've chosen to remove my eyeballs or something. It was a very strange thing to say. And then I also had random strangers in the street would look at me. I mean, they could have just been looking at me in disgust because of my face, I don't know. But I did have one particular child, I was pushing Christopher down the road in his pram, and this girl who was about 12 was walking up, and I smiled and said hello, and she looked at me and went, "You're too young to have a kid." And I was like, oh my God, well, you deserve a smack round the head, you silly little bint. But that was hard. It also made it more difficult because when I was 20, I looked about 12. And so to a lot of people, they probably thought, oh my God, that 12-year-old's got a baby. In all fairness, it could have been someone else's baby. It could have been my brother or sister. It could have been my nephew or niece, and I was looking after them. People don't know. People judge because people are assholes. But the point is that I did look a lot younger than I was, and in some way I can understand people's reactions, because although there shouldn't really be a restriction on when you choose to have a child, there is obviously a lower limit and a higher limit. If you are 12 or 13 and you are having a baby, not only is that illegal because you can't have sex yet, it's also, to me, outrageous that, I mean, they're a child themselves. And still, even at 16, I mean, I do know a few people that have had children at 16, and funnily enough, it hasn't ruined their lives. But for some people it can, and it is still very young, and there is a lot of growing up to be done between 16 and 20. However, 20 is still very young, based on my opinion, from my experience. If some people choose to have a child at 20, then that's, I would never judge anybody on that because I chose it myself. Again, I don't think there should be any stipulations neither. I don't think you necessarily need to be in a relationship. I think if a woman chooses, or a man chooses, to have a child on their own, that's completely fine as well. I think you should be financially stable. You definitely should be able to care for that child financially, because children are expensive. But I don't think there should be anything. I mean, single parents are, everywhere these days. It's not the taboo that it used to be, and it's perfectly fine to bring up a child as a solo parent. And lots of people do that. However, the age thing, I think there is a line that you shouldn't cross. Again, there's an upper limit as well. I think if you're choosing to have children, I mean, if you're still able to have children in your 50s and 60s, if you're biologically able, that doesn't mean that you should. And again, it is completely your decision. I personally don't agree with it, especially if you're in your 60s, because this is like a blanket statement that I'm putting out. Generally, if you are in your 60s, you tend to have less energy, and you potentially won't be around, you will be around hopefully for the next 30 to 40 years. But that's going to make a huge difference on that child's life. When your child is 10, you'll be in your 70s, and people can be cruel. So if the child's going to school and they see the other children see this parent and they're in the 70s, and then that'll be the whole your mum looks like your grandma, blah 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 blah. I think there's a lot that can be avoided. It doesn't necessarily need to be done, but if it happens and you choose that, then it happens and you choose that and that. But I don't agree with it personally. There also shouldn't be determining factors. So there's these social preconceptions where you've got to go to college and university, and then you've got to get a good job, and then you've got to find the person that you want to marry. You have to get engaged, and you have to buy a house, you have to get married. Whichever way around they're supposed to do it, I don't know. I don't care. Do things the way you want to do it. And then once you've been married for 5 years or 2 years or whatever, then you can start having a family, and then you should have another one. And we still seem to, I mean, it is kind of going away now, and people tend to not want to conform. And there are many women choosing to not have children at all. Not just women, men, relationships, couples, whatever. Many people choosing not to have children. Again, completely fine. Don't blame them. Children are insane. And whichever order you decide to do things is up to you. There's no predetermined order of things. I I had my child, I was married, I've been divorced, I am now in a place in my life where I know what I want to be doing, I love it, I'm doing what I want to be doing on some level for most things. And yes, that's in a kind of topsy-turvy, wrong way around order when you look at normal way of doing things. And if people want to do things traditionally, if they decide that they want to live their life like that with the career and the marriage and the children and the stuff, then that's fine if that's what you want to do. But realise that you have a choice. You don't have to do things that way. It doesn't matter if you do it the other way around. If you get married, have a child, or if you have a child and then get married, or if you buy a house and then get married, or if you do all those things and you start your career at 40, it doesn't matter. It's not set in destiny that everyone has to do things those ways. So the way that I've chosen to do things is obviously the way that my life has gone. I don't have any comparison as to what my life would be like if I hadn't have had Christopher at 20. I don't know. But he is the best thing that's ever happened to me. He's amazing, and I can't imagine my life without him, because that is the saddest thing in the world, because he's just so incredible. He is annoying and loud at many times of the day, and sometimes I want to punch him in the face. But he also feels that way about me sometimes, and that's fine. That's fair enough. We do get on very well. We have an incredible relationship, and I can't think of anything better, because it's so nice that we get along together. And as much as he hates to admit it, he thinks I'm hilarious, and he loves me lots. I'm not sure. I don't think, as I said before, I don't think the fact that I was younger makes a great deal of difference on the relationship we have. I think that's just something that you create throughout your time together. It's a bond that we have, and it was connected through being mother and son, and the time that we spent together, the things we've done. That's how those bonds are created. Sometimes I think it might just be a thing that happens naturally. It's just there from the beginning and it just gets stronger. Sometimes it takes a little bit of work and you build on it. There are ups and downs, obviously, but that's just how things are with families. It doesn't make any difference as to how old you are when you have a child. Like I say, Christopher is the best thing that ever happened to me. I have zero regrets for being a mum at such a young age. It's not made my life worse. It's made my life extremely better. It's made it incredible, and that's pretty much all there is to say on that. It was very nice to talk to you about this, and if you have any comments, or you'd like to tell me something, or you enjoyed this vlog, or you want to send me a picture of your dog, anything. But if you've got a cat or a ferret or anything else, feel free to send me those pictures. As much as I love my child, I'm not a child person. But you be your child person, you do what you like, and as long as you're not hurting anyone, as long as you're happy, have 10 kids. As long as you're not stealing money from the government, then do what you want. Okay, I love you. Bye.